Hey guys, how's it going? We are out in the garden super early to do a garden tour. Um, it's a beautiful morning. I'm obviously in a hoodie and the weather is just perfect right now. So let me turn the camera around and show you guys our June garden tour because things are looking really, really good despite how hot it has been. We've had a week of cool down temperatures, and so it looks really good, and I can't wait to show you guys how everything's come along because it's been a little bit since I've given updates on a lot of things throughout the garden. And so here's the garden tour of all the things that you guys don't get to see in the videos each week. So let me turn the camera around and we'll start this garden tour. So if we start right in the front yard, it's all looking really good. The arborvitaes right here in the containers, they are about 3-4 years old now at this point, and they're very, very happy, and they could probably go another year or two in these containers. This one right here gets a little less sun. You can see that one right there gets a little more sun, and it just looks really, really nice. It's a great way to like enter into the property. Over on this side, I've got these helianthus, and these are the Sunbelievables, and they have produced so many blooms, and they keep producing. You can see all of the like spent blooms, and they just kind of like buried down. So these have been really, really interesting. I think I have 5 of them up here, and this one is definitely the biggest. Maybe those 2 are the biggest. This one is the youngest. There's 2 of them that I planted about 2 to 3 weeks later than I planted the other ones. So this one and 2 others got planted, and then a couple weeks later I found some more and planted those. This is the Eden Climber Rose, and she did bloom for us a little bit, and all of her blooms were very, very short, and then she shot up these long runners, and I'm just trying to train them to go over the fence. I want it to basically take over the entire front of the fence. And then I have a maple tree right here, front and center. And this thing this year has put on so much growth. It's been really nice. I do plan to come back and trim this cypress up right here. It is technically our neighbor's, but you can see it hangs over on the property quite a bit, and it's kind of impeding onto the maple a little bit. So I do plan to trim that up some this year. But I wouldn't mind if they kind of like grew together a little bit. Over on this side over here, these are the other helianthus that I have, and they look really, really good. They're starting to like come out into the driveway a little bit, which is totally fine. And I do expect them to get a little bit taller than the fence is gonna be. So this has been it's been a lot of fun, a lot of color, really, really pretty. The centers of these has been really, really cool to see. Right there I have a poppy. It's obviously faded because it's very hot and they're a cool season crop. I do leave them because these are the seed heads right here, and I like to come along, and now that these are fully open like this, I don't think you guys can hear it, but there's a bunch of seeds in here, and usually I take these and I sprinkle the seeds throughout the property. So that one's faded, and then over here I have some zinnias, and they look like they're 2 different varieties. This one's a little bit lighter than those ones, but I thought that they were the same variety. Oh, I just noticed this one. Look, this one's kind of mutated. That's really cool. I love zinnias. I think they're really pretty. It's just kind of a cool little pop of color, and they just produce non-stop flowers. Let's go into the gate, and you guys can see down below the window box right there. That is my micro lavender field, and then my window box looks really good. So over there, that's my hoard of plants, and then the front porch right here, it just got resurfaced, restained, and then the containers, those have been repainted, and it just is feeling really nice up here. So I've got the lavender right here. This is called the Princess, and it's done blooming for now. I'm hoping that it sends out another flush of blooms, but it smells really nice still. And then in these containers, I have Diachondra Silver Falls and Creeping Jenny, and the color combination has been really, really fun. See all the like oil on the window right there? I sprayed it with neem oil to try to get rid of aphids, and it didn't work. And so then I ended up using beneficial insects, and that has really helped a ton. These are the Super Calpachoas, and they were covered in aphids. I had released some green lacewings, and I'm not finding any aphids anymore, which has been really, really nice. So we're gonna go to the backyard now. We're gonna just skip to go straight back there because the car is being worked on in the driveway, and we don't need to stare at the car. So coming into the backyard now, this is our backyard area. This is the side yard. I really love the way that this has turned out right here. we have a redbud tree. This is an eastern redbud. And I love it because the leaves on it are heart-shaped. I have always loved redbuds. I think they're so pretty. They bloom in the spring, and all of the blooms happen to be like directly on the branches. I think it's really cool. So this is kind of what you see when you first come in. And then I have a clematis growing on this trellis right here, and it's being trained to go over. It's an evergreen clematis called Armandii, and I really just want this to feel like you're walking into like a tunnel of green. So you can see it goes up and then it's starting to go over. We have lights right here that are on at nighttime, and it just is very magical. Over in this side, I have a rose. This is called Coco Loco, and these are her like almost spent blooms. This is her basically done blooming, and even the roses then are still really, really pretty. I love this rose. It's new to me, and I've been very, very pleased with it. I did notice though that it was an aphid magnet, but I think it's worth it because it's a standard, meaning that it's trained into like a tree form right there. And the blooms when they're brand new are stunning, and as they age are really, really pretty, which a lot of roses don't get very pretty when they start to age. So I really have enjoyed what it's done for me. Down below, I have some coleus. This is called Wasabi down here. And I grew these ones from cuttings, and they're one of my favorite coleus. This is gonna get massive. You won't even be able to see anything. It's just gonna be like a massive green. And then I just planted these red ones right there, and they're really, really pretty. I've never grown these ones before, so we'll see what happens. I can't even remember the name of it. I've got a black stocking penstemon right there, and then right this grass texture right here is a lily of some sort. I can't remember which variety it is. This bed I really wanted like a lot of green in here. I wanted it to be kind of like very peaceful, just different like leaf textures. So the wasabi coleus, the grass textures, and then I have some heuchera right here. These ones are called marmalade, and so they're a really bright green color. They've kind of like faded a little bit. They were much more vibrant, but they're still very green. You can see like those are the new leaves, and the new ones are very vibrant, and then they fade to this like more muted green. I've got right here some lungwort, which I had never grown before, and I'm really excited about that. And then my fountain. And this is like my favorite thing ever. We do occasionally have issues with it. So we did go, you can see right there, it's now caulked. And we were having issue with water running down and then it would empty because the water goes underneath the seal right there. So we just went ahead and we caulked it, and now we don't have that issue. So now it stays full all the time. Over on this side, this is an iceberg rose right here, and she pretty much blooms nonstop. She's a really good rose. The only thing that I don't like is her faded blooms tend to look like this. So that's not like a very good faded bloom compared to the Coco Loco, but it is fine. And then this is a really cool specimen tree right here. This is a saguaro cypress, and I love this tree. Very, very unique. It's a Lawson's cypress or a saguaro cypress, and they're really, really cool. Because the branches come out and they look like arms of a saguaro cactus, which is really cool. Down here is a container that I just did. It has a lantana and a pechoa and a pentas in the back. And then I also have a sweet potato vine tucked in right back there. I've got another hosta right there, which is massive. It is blooming, and I tend to leave the blooms because they don't really bother me too much. And then if we look coming in this way, on the left, I have a Kilmarnock willow. That's in a container. That thing will get like 8 to 10 feet tall, and I think it's like 6 to 8 feet wide. And I can trim on it to kind of keep it in check a little bit more. And then on the right, I have a magnolia called Ricky. And I underline that with, it's called it's called Baby Tears is what it's called. And it's this like super pretty evergreen moss for me. Can you see that? It's really, really pretty. Let me see if I can get a better view. There we go. That's what it looks like. It's a really pretty evergreen. It is water hungry, so I do try to make sure that it stays nice and wet. And all of our containers here are hooked up on drip irrigation, so it's not something that I worry about at all. I've got this container right here that I just recently did, and I really love it. It's a really nice pop of color. The red caladiums have been really fun, and then this variegated plant right here is actually a brunnera. And it did get a little bit of leaf burn, but now that it's in the shade, it's much, much happier. So this is a brunnera, and it's variegated. Usually brunneras aren't variegated, so this was a really, really cool one to find. I found this locally. I found this I found this a couple hours away from me, actually. It was at a place called High Hand, and I picked up 3 of them, and I just think they're so cool, so unique. I have the other ones tucked in right back there. And then behind our sofa set right here, this is our wall of arborvitaes. They were not looking good until this year. This is the best that they've ever looked. They almost got pulled this year, but they have totally rebounded and they are much, much happier. I don't know why they're happy, but they are happy. And these ones all came to about here a couple years ago. So they were much smaller when we planted them and they got stunted, and then I think they got shocked, and now they're happy and they're fine. They do get a ton of water though. If we come this way, we're gonna make our rounds and we're gonna go like this time. So this right here is a topiary. This is a spiral and it's about to start flowering. Isn't that so fun? These little tiny pops of pink on them. I think it's really, really sweet. This is a like orange something, an orange twist. I can't remember quite what it's called. And then down below that is an oxalis. And so I did this spiral container at the same time that I did the one with the caladium, and I'm really, really happy with it. Coming into this bed, it is so full and it is so gorgeous, and there's so much different texture and color and all of these things happening. So let's start off right here. These right here are my pride and joy. They are called Mahogany Splendor Hibiscus, and I use them in place of Japanese maples because we can't grow Japanese maples here. And so I just grow these from seed, and they tend to slow down, and then once it gets hot, they really take off, and these will get massive. I wanted them to just be a wall almost. So I'm hoping that in the next week or two, they really just like perform like crazy. And then down below is a Helen von Stein lamb's ear. And I love lamb's ear. Mine is flowering right now, which the Helen von Stein usually doesn't flower often, but this year it has really flowered. And so you can see all of these purple flowers are its bloom spikes. So it's got a ton of them that have happened and even more to come, which I'm leaving them because I do see some pollinators on them and I don't mind that they look like that. And then right here is a plant, but I cannot remember what this plant is called. It's also variegated, and then it gets these pink spots. And I don't know who she is. She dies back to the ground every year. She's been getting bigger and bigger each year, and I'm really happy with her. I really have loved it. I think it's a really gorgeous plant. I don't know what it is though. Above that, these white blooms right here, this is a rose of Sharon. This one, I can't remember the name of it. I'm gonna have to pop it up on the screen. It's a proven winners plant. I did like a trio of 3 proven winners plants right here, and I'm really happy with them. So Rose of Sharon, the last 2 years she got taken over by aphids and by ants, and this year I tried to spray and take care of that issue early, and we're not dealing with aphids or ants. So really, really happy with it. And this one, I thought it was sterile when I planted it, but it's not sterile, but I haven't noticed any of them popping up and taking over my garden. So I'm really happy with that. This right here is called Dusty Miller, and a lot of people didn't know that it blooms. Usually you just see it as foliar growth, like you would see just those. They do bloom, and the pollinators go absolutely crazy for it. This patch right here is about 4 years old at this point, and I do let it bloom. I let it do whatever it wants to do. I think it's super worth it. And now that the blooms are starting to die back a little bit, like you can see all of these dead blooms, and these ones are starting to fade a little bit. Once they're fully faded, I will go ahead and I'll cut them back, and then it'll just be a really pretty silver mound, which I will gladly take. And then if we come into this bed, I've got some Super Tunia Vista silverberries right here, and I didn't fertilize them. I was kind of doing an experiment, and I think it kind of like came back to bite me, and I'm not sure how long I'm going to keep these in, but that's okay. I've got a euphorbia right here, and I'm really excited about that. This is one called Mountain Snow, and I started it from seed, and it's just so gorgeous. And then right here, this is a bluebeard called Beyond Pinked, and it's really, really pretty. I think I see some of the blooms forming. So this is what they start to look like, and it does these like round plumes of blooms all the way up these stems. It's really, really cool. I'm not sure why this one got broke. Oh, shoot. Yep, this one broke. Not sure how that happened. That is such a bummer. I was wondering why this one looked a little wilted. And then this rose right here is called Soul Sister, and it's a really, really pretty rose. I'm not like an orange rose fan, but this one has been so gorgeous. Isn't that so pretty? And then I've got a hydrangea down here. This one is the Little Quickfire, I believe, and it's just kind of like tucked in and hidden, and you get these like little plumes showing up. And then this is the Pugster's Blue Dwarf Butterfly Bush, and technically it's dwarf, but it is massive. I mean, look at how pretty the blooms are on this. I almost pulled it, chose not to, and I am so glad that I chose not to pull it. The pollinators that I've seen have been insane. You can see this is what the spent blooms look like, which is not my favorite. So I should come in and like pop these off, but you know, there's only so many hours in the day. I think that like the vibrancy of the like purpley blue on here like outshines the dead blooms anyways, doesn't really matter. I still think it's super gorgeous. And then coming out of that same bed, right here on this trellis is a morning glory called Split Second, and it gets these really pretty like pink blooms. I think that they're so gorgeous. We're gonna keep coming down this way. I have another hydrangea right there. That is a limelight hydrangea, and I'm really hoping that she starts blooming soon because I love hydrangeas. I don't always have the best luck with them, but I found this side of my property does really well with them. So they get a ton of shade. They get a little tiny bit of morning sun, and then they get sun, well, they get sun from probably about 9 a.m. to probably 11:30, and then they get protection and they get shade. And then this tree right here, this is a lemon cypress. I have a ton of these on the property. I really love lemon cypress. They smell good, they're gorgeous, they're an evergreen. They are for higher zones only though. So if you're in a lower zone, you probably won't be able to grow them, but they're very commonly found in like lower zones during Christmas time because they smell really nice and they're really pretty, that we tied up as like the Grinch trees or whatever. And I love them. I tend to buy them around that time of year, and then I just plant them because they're really cheap. This is a ivory halo dogwood right here. Isn't that so pretty? I love this dogwood. I didn't know that I could grow dogwood. I didn't think that they would survive in my area, but this one has done really, really well. Very pleasantly surprised by that. Super gorgeous dogwood. Next to that is a Japanese anemone. Well, behind that is a butterfly bush, and I think that one is going to get pulled. This one just looks a little ratty to me. So I'd rather have something else that's taller, that's prettier back there than that thing. But this is a Japanese anemone, and I love Japanese anemones so much. I think that they're so gorgeous. I like them just to use in like flower arrangements. I use the leaves in them. They are leaves of 3. And so like, let me pull this one. So you can see that they are leaves of 3, and then they have really, really long stems. This one I just snapped off, but you can get them super, super long if you just kind of reach down in there, and they do quite well in flower arrangements. So I try to use them. And then at the very end of the year, like sometime in October, they tend to flower for us, and it's really, really cool. The flowers will reach usually this tall, and there are thousands of flowers. And so it's a really cool one to feed pollinators just right at the very end of the year. I really love it. The only thing is it is a bully in the garden. This started out as I think 2 little tiny 4-inch plants, and they spread by rhizomes. So they kind of spread under the ground. So they do take over, so you have to keep them in check. I tend to like fight them in the lawn a little bit. They are easy to pull, but it is a bully in the garden, just forewarning you. Next to that, I have a chokeberry, which has formed up its berries for this coming fall. It's gonna be so pretty. They get a very bright red color. They're really pretty in the fall and winter time. And I guess you can eat them. I've never tried them, and I probably won't be. And then this is another hydrangea. This is one called Little Lime. And she has a rogue stem that she shot up, but it's blooming. So I'm not gonna be mad at that at all. I just love hydrangeas so much. I think that they're so pretty. I just wish that they did better for me. They just never do. So this one, I'm gonna just leave. I was thinking about trying to turn it into like a topiary form. I saw somebody who took it and they had one that had done this, and they cut the stem and then they just put it in dirt, and then it started rooting, and then they had like a topiary that they grew from home. So I'm thinking about doing something like that, because I can't keep that rogue stem. I want this one to stay like a proper size. I've got a calla lily here, which I do use the leaves in flower arrangements, and then it has these really pretty pink blooms, and it should continue blooming. I don't know why it's kind of slowed down, but she has slowed down just a little bit. Below that, I have a rose. This is the nitty gritty rose, and when it was blooming, I saw a ton of pollinators on it. And then now I'm seeing some leaf cutter action on it, which doesn't bother me if it's taking care of some pollinators. You can see all of this right here is from leaf cutters, which, you know what, go for it, guys. Whatever you guys need to be happy and continue to pollinate my garden. If you need to destroy a few leaves, go for it. But this one is pushing out some new blooms, so I should get another flush here probably in a couple weeks, maybe in a month's time. Above that, I just pruned this up. This is a Vitex, and normally it's in shrub form, but I really didn't want a shrub Vitex. I wanted more of like a tree form, and so you can totally do that. You just come in and you clean all of the lower branching up, and I just like the contorted figure of the lower half of this, and so I trimmed it up, and look at all of the blooms on this thing. Isn't that insane? Look at those blooms, they're so pretty. And this is also a really good one to use in place of Japanese maples, and you get blooms out of it. The leaf structure on it looks like Japanese maples. The bees love this. This is like a butterfly bush, Japanese maple all in one, and it smells really, really good. Some people don't like the smell of it. Brent's not the biggest fan of the smell, but I love the smell of it. It's kind of like a nostalgic smell to me. And then I mean, look at how many flowers this thing is gonna have. And this thing blooms all the way through October for us. It just continues to bloom and bloom and bloom. And then it does drop all of its leaves. It is deciduous, so it is just kind of sticks, but this is the dwarf version. And it is not dwarf at all. It's absolutely massive, but I don't care. It's so pretty. Coming down this way, we still have to redo the rest of the fence, and then this whole area is going to get a makeover. So you can see we have the flower bed here. I'm not doing any planting this year, or this summertime at least, until we get the fence done, because then I want to come in and I want this all to be flower bed right up to that section. So it'll be a very soft curve like this, and that'll be a very deep planting right there. I just think it'll be really, really pretty. This is the vegetable garden, and I think we're gonna skip over this today. It's just not super exciting, and I've been spending a lot of time in the vegetable garden. You can go back and you can watch a lot of other videos that have a lot more about our vegetable garden. Oh, let me show you our willow tree. This is our willow tree. It is massive. It's about 4 years old, and she sways in the wind, and it's so gorgeous. She's been like an amazing tree to have on the property. We constantly do have to trim her up so we can walk. You can see we usually trim her to about there. Otherwise her branching gets caught in the lawnmower when we go to mow. You can see they're touching the ground. So we do have to constantly trim her up a little bit. We do try to keep it a little more natural looking, but look at the way she moves in the wind. Isn't that magic? Okay, let's come through the willow tree and we'll come to the back garden. This is like my secret garden back here because I don't show it very often. So I have a rose right here. This is a pink iceberg rose. I just cut it back and she's indestructible. You can see she's flowering yet again. She blooms nonstop. She's like the first one to bloom and the last one to stop blooming. Pink iceberg rose, really, really pretty. And then on this side over here, I have a Claire Austin rose that just finished, and it's now set its second flush of blooms. You can see there are a ton of them to come and that have already started to open, so that's really exciting. This is a climbing rose, and so it gets really, really massive. I'm trying to train it to go in front of the shed here and then up along the sides there, but we'll see how that goes. And you come back this way and I have a hydrangea right here. This is the endless summer hydrangea. It was blue, now it's pink. If I fertilized it properly, it would probably go back to blue, but you know, you win some, you lose some. We do have a little teeny tiny pond right there that has one fish, and it has some frogs that constantly are in there. And then we have these birch trees right here. These get so much water, and that's the only reason they're happy. I get asked about birch trees all the time and how do we keep ours happy and growing. Irrigation, water them. I'm in such a hot zone. I'm in zone 9 and these need a ton of water. And we bought these bare root, and I think buying bare root and making sure that they get plenty of water has been the biggest lifesaver on these guys because they've grown so incredibly fast. Okay, now we're gonna come this way to the other side of the property and we're gonna ignore my pile. I have a St. John's wort right here, and I've struggled every single year with this plant, but this year it looks so good. The last couple years it never flowered and bloomed so well for me and produced its like berries for me. It's always like burned. We also got aphids and we just had so many issues with it. And so now that we dealt with the aphid issue, they're not burning and they're not sticky. And so it's like flowered and it's bloomed and it's really been a gorgeous, gorgeous plant. And I've been very, very happy with it. Next to that, this is called a cahuhu or a pittosporum, and I love it. It's an evergreen and it has these black stems. I have 3 of them on the property and I just think that they're so gorgeous. It's like a very like icy green color. It's very green, but like kind of icy. And then the black stems has been really, really fun. And like I said, it's an evergreen, which has been nice. Down below, I have another butterfly bush. You can tell I love butterfly bush here. I think they're really fun. And plus, I constantly see pollinators on them. And then on this fence right here, we have some apple trees that are being trained into a Espalier. You can see that is the best looking one. That one's the oldest. And then these 3 right here had just been planted this year. I've got a sunflower patch. This is the Gold Light DMR, and I plant them very close because I prefer to have smaller flowers, and it's a branching one, so it produces a ton of flowers. But if I plant them closer, then I can use it in flower arrangements, and I cut on it all the time. So you can see I come in here and I cut some of the sunflowers off and I use them in flower arrangements, and then it's super easy to tuck them into flower arrangements. Versus if they're massive sunflowers, you can't use them. And so I've got this little patch right here and it just produces and produces and produces. It's a little hard out. It's been really, really fun. I just love sunflowers. Down below next to that, this is a plant called an Echinacea, and it looks like a sunflower. It's a cross between, I think it's a Rebecca and an Echinacea. And they're really, really cool. I've grown these the last couple years. I just think they're really pretty. This is a rose called Queen of Sweden, and the blooms on this face upward, and usually she stays a little bit smaller. She's getting kind of to the peak of where she should be, and as you walk by her, the blooms just like face you, they face upward, so it's a really fun one to have in the garden. Like, I don't know, it's almost, I don't want to say thornless, but it has way less thorns, and so it's a really good one to use like near the border of a bed. Coming down this way, we've got the last 2 apple espaliers, and then underneath it is the super calpachoas right here. And these have been fun. I've never grown them before, so this was a fun experiment. They are very bright, they're very pink, they're really cool. I really like them. They didn't grow nearly as fast as I thought they would. So I have gone in and I've planted a couple more plants in here. These are a black petunia. They're just some random brand. I don't even know whose they are. And so I don't expect them to get very big, but I do expect them to kind of like fill in little holes a little tiny bit. They'll probably get like maybe half the size of these ones right here is my guess. Over on this side right here, this is our aviary. We just put this finial on the very top of it, and I think it has totally completed it. We have little finch in here, and they're zebra finch. They stay out year round. We don't get cold enough in the winter to need to bring them in, and we also don't get like too hot in the summer where they struggle. They're super used to the heat. I think that they're used to like Australia is where they're from, if I remember correctly. And so they stay in here and they can go up into the roof and get away from the sun and the heat if they need to. It's got lots of ventilation. It's just got some like bird netting on here. Let's see if I can get a video of them. They're telling me that they're hungry. So then if we come this way, this right here is a alder tree. And I love this tree. This is a very fast growing tree. It's a very large tree. So if you need something for like instant impact, this is something that I definitely would recommend is the alder tree. And they get these really cool things. They're called alder cones. So they're little pine cones basically. So you can see these little cones right here. These will turn into like little baby pine cones and they're really, really cute. To me, this is a plant that like one of my grandparents had on their property, and so I kind of had to have it. I remember climbing this tree as a kid and like playing underneath it, and so this was like a nostalgia thing for me to put in my garden, and I really just love it. And I constantly see birds in it, and I see hummingbirds like resting on it, so it's become a plant that I really, really love. Down below here, I have a spirea right here. This is one called candy corn, and she just finished blooming. But when she starts out orange in the springtime, which is really crazy because it looks like fall colors. And I have really loved this spirea. I've got another Helen Bonstein lamb's ear tucked in right there. I've got some pentas, I've got some more of the pachoas. These ones are staying much smaller, so I think this would be perfect to like, now playing with them, these will be perfect to like tuck in randomly where I've got little holes, and then the pink ones I will put into where I've got bigger holes in the property. I've got a lavender right here, and this is its second flush of blooms, and I think lavender is a very important one to have on the property. Pollinators just really appreciate lavender, so I try to always grow it. Next to that, I've got some salvia. It's called Vibe Ignition White and Vibe Ignition Purple. And behind that, I'm so excited for this plant. This has been one, I had a couple plants that were on my wish list and I found them this year. Some of them didn't perform. This one is performing really well. This is the Proudberry Coralberry right here. And this one is, I don't think it's my growing zones. I can't remember. I think this is one that I was like, I'm gonna try it. We'll see what happens. I got a really good deal on it. And like, it's leafed out. I love the like blue color of it. It looks like eucalyptus a little bit. And then that new growth is green. And it should get these really pretty pink berries this winter time. So I'm really excited to see what that does. It's gonna be so gorgeous. On this wall right here, this is kind of like the best feature on the entire property. This is my Espalier honeysuckle. She is starting to burn just a little bit. We had some days that got really hot and like the UV index was kind of intense. So she had a little bit of a struggle, but she's okay now. This is a year and a couple months old. This is one of the first projects that I did with my friend Janie over at Dig Plant Water Repeat. Did this project with her, and I mean, you can see we're not very far into it and it has totally filled out and it's just so gorgeous right now. We do sit right here pretty often. I do a lot of videos right here and I love being over on this side. And we did get some blooms this year, which was like a pleasant surprise. I didn't think that I would be getting any because I tend to cut off most of the new growth. But the little bits that I did kind of like wind into it did bloom, which was really cool. And the last little bit right here, this is a bed that I've slowly started working on. I have a hydrangea, that one's called Glacier Bay, and I like it because the stems are black also. If you can tell, I have a thing that I like, it's black stems. I think it's very unique. And then it's got a lace cap type hydrangea bloom. And then I have these sedums right here. And I'm really excited. I've never grown sedums before. I think it'll be a really fun one to try and see what happens. I've got a hosta, I think it's called like Diamond Lake, and it's not performing very well. It did get hit with slugs, and now it's turning kind of like a weird color. So we'll see what goes on with that one. And then the last thing is this basket right here that has like all kinds of different plants in here. I've got a couple heucheras, I've got begonias, I've got a bishop's hat, I've got lobelia, and so it's just kind of like a cool mixture of plants, and it's doing really well. So that is going to be it for this garden tour. I hope that you guys enjoyed it. Thank you for coming along with me this morning. I got out here as early as I possibly could without trying to wake up the whole neighborhood with my talking. So I hope that you guys enjoyed the garden tour. I had fun filming it. I hope that you guys got to see some things that you don't normally get to see around the property just because I'm filming other things and certain things don't get shown all the time. So I hope that you guys enjoyed it. Thanks for coming along with me, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye guys.